Hello, dear students. Today we are going to continue with the chapter 2 of Nicobobinus. Yesterday we have seen in chapter 1 that Nicobobinus and his best friend Rosie are going in search of the land of dragons. One day morning they leave from home and they cross as many bridges, and on the way they met a watchman, and later on they reached in a garden to pluck apples, and there was an unknown man who was behind Nicobobinus and Rosie was on the other side. Now let's see what happens in chapter number 2. Nicobobinus ran as fast as he could across the lawn, down the path, round a hedge, and into a little shed, and bolted the door, which means he is inside a room now and he bolted the door. "Open up!" cried the man, and the hinges creaked and the door shook as he banged it with his fist. "That door's not going to last long," thought Nicobobinus to himself, and he dragged a large old stone rolled up against it. "Open this door at once! Did you hear me?" the man was shouting. But Nicobobinus didn't hear anything at all. He was too amazed by what he had found. "You'll have to come out eventually," the man was saying, "and the longer you leave it, the worse it'll be for you." But he could have saved his breath. Nicobobinus was on his knees examining what he had revealed when he moved the roller. He brushed off the dust and undid the catch and then lifted it up. "Let's see what happens next." "Right, I'm going to break this door now," said the man. And then, because he knew he had to have to repair the door himself, he added, "Do you hear?" Because he know if it is getting spoiled, he has to repair it. So he once again asked him, "Do you hear?" But Nicobobinus didn't hear. Nicobobinus had disappeared through the trap door he had discovered, which means there was a door which Nicobobinus found, and he has escaped through that and was running down stone steps that were slippery and slime and that smelt of graveyards, and that went down and down deeper into the ground until it became pitch black. You can see in the picture that he's getting down the steps, and as he goes deeper it was more dark and dark. "Rosie," said Nicobobinus to himself, "this is all your fault, because Rosie has given him the idea to find the land of dragons." So he was remembering Rosie now, saying that this is all your fault. He heard his heart pounding and his steps echoing along the dang rock of the narrow passageway until all at once there was nothing, and therefore he realized he was falling in the blackness. Yes, he was, which means it's so dark over there. Several thoughts flashed through his mind at the same time. The first was something along the lines of bother, only a bit ruder. The second was a rather unkind thought about his best friend, who had instigated the whole expedition, and it involved her dangling over a snake pit while numerous fierce dragons flew at her, chanting, "How could you do it to him, poor Nicobobinus?" The third thought was, suppose it's a well, a deep, unused well, with slimy, slippery sides that you could never climb and icy water at the bottom? That Oh no, there were so many thoughts going on. At this point, he discovered it was not a well. He made the discovery very suddenly and very painfully. "Oh no!" He fell down. "Off!" said Nicobobinus, and he lay there in the pitch blackness with not a single breath left in his body. For what seemed like the whole winter, but was probably only a few seconds. It is mentioned over there, seemed like old winter means it was that cool. He came to himself, in fact, just as a stone hit on the head. "Off," said Nicobobinus again, and then realized he could hear footsteps high above him. "Stop, sir," he called out, but the footsteps kept on coming down. That means the man is coming. And he reached there. "Aha! I have got you now," cried the man, "and I shall beat every bone in your body until it is black and—" Oh, what happened? Nicobobinus supposed the man was going to say blue, but in fact, the next word he uttered sounded like buck fuck hook hum hum. What was that? Yes, what was that? It was not a word with which Nicobobinus was at all familiar, but he understood its meaning perfectly and moved smartly out of the way. Crash means the man fell down. Look at the pic. He fell down. "Are you all right?" he asked, but there was silence. Nicobobinus felt his way back in the pitch dark until his hand touched the man's leather jerkin. The man was lying still as death, but he was breathing. Thank God. "I must get help," said Nicobobinus to himself, and he began groping around in the blackness to find another way out. But when he found it, however, his heart sank. The only exit appeared to be a narrow gap down by the floor, no more than a foot high. There was an exit, but it was so narrow for him to move. "I can't squirm through that in the pitch dark," he said to himself. But at that very moment, he heard Rosie's cheerful voice saying, "You can do it." Yes, Rosie is over there and saying, "You can do it, you can do it." Nicobobinus spun round, and there, to his immense surprise, was nothing. No Rosie, not anybody, which means that was his imagination, that Rosie is encouraging him as usual. "But I don't know if it leads anywhere," he said to the voice in his head. "And it's such a tight squeeze. So I might get stuck," he thought. He didn't hear Rosie's voice again, but he knew what it would have said. And that was how he found himself wriggling down a narrow passage of stone in the pitch black. He squirmed and he wriggled there in the black for a long, long time, and the tunnel got narrower until he could hardly inch along it, which means he was struggling to move out of it. "I'm going back," he said to himself, but he didn't. He just kept wriggling and squirming until suddenly he found he could stand up. Finally, he could stand up. He took a pace forward and immediately fell over stone steps leading up. "Oh," he said, although what he really meant was, "Thank goodness." He began to climb, and he was still climbing some minutes later. It must be a tower, he thought, or the grandest house in the Venice. But at that very moment he saw a crack of light. He stretched out his hand and found himself touching a catch that clicked softly in the dark. A panel suddenly slid open, and Nicobobinus stepped through into the most amazing room he had ever seen. So, my dear students, here are chapter 2 ends, and I know now you might be surprised or eager, so curious to know what happened next. But unfortunately, we are having only 2 chapters of Nicobobinus to learn. But to calm your curiosity, I'm going to quickly brief you the story. As you all know, the amusing adventure of 2 children in search of the land of dragons, marred by authorial intrusions and strange humor, it starts in Venice. And the boy Nicobobinus is capable of doing anything, and his best friend Rosie thinks the same. Their adventures began when they decided to look for the land of dragons. Before they have even left Venice, Nico has had both feet and one hand turned into gold. which is not there in our chapter, it's in the upcoming chapters. Then he is captured by pirates who want to cut off his golden limbs. Rosie rescues him, but more peculiar adventures are in store as the pirates turn out to be evil monks and a mysterious ship takes them to the Sea of Mountains. And finally, in the city of Christ, Nico and Rosie discover the dragons that may hold the secret they seek, and that is the end of Nicobobinus. Now you can watch that, or you can read the entire fiction, and you will definitely enjoy it. Now let's go to the textbook exercises. In that we are having question answers based on the story, which I'll be sharing in the notes. Like all the question answers is very easy for you, and there are some lines of speech also given. You need to identify who has said the same and write the speaker's name over there. For example, the first one I'm solving for you. Aha, I have got you now. I have got you now. Who said this? That man when he came down the steps to the dark room. Same way you can find the remaining ones. Now let's go to the next page. In this working with words, like there is a list of words and phrases from the story given over there, like replied, whispered, asked, thought, growl, yell, etc. And here the meaning is said only, but sometimes we have to be very precise. So in that situations we use these kind of words. For example, when I say replied, that means said only, but in certain situations the meaning is said, but still when a person is answering to the question of another person, we say it as replied. The same way there, the words you need to find out from the story. It's already listed over there, but go through the situation where they are used. Now go to the next part, that is sentences. You know that sentence is a group of words with meaning, and in that there are mainly 4 types of sentences what we use. They are statements, what we call as declarative, and questions, or what we say as interrogative, and commands or requests, what we say as imperative sentences, and exclamatory sentences. These are the 4 common types which we are going to learn in detail in language also, but the same thing you need to find out from the story. Like there are different kinds of sentences used in the story, so try to find it out. Okay, let's solve one sample. In that, the first one, write questions for these answers. The answer is given that she was the prime minister, so we can write was she the prime minister, or we can make a question like what was her job, like that. So it varies from student to student. You are independent to write your answers. Now the next one, see, make up a statement, command, question, exclamation for each. For example, man and machine. So man is not a machine is statement. Is man a machine? That's a question. Same way, for example, look at A. Cat and door is given. So how can we make the statement? The cat is near the door, we can write. And in command we can write let that cat out through the door. And question can be is the cat behind the door? And exclamation can be that cat, put an exclamatory mark later, it has scratched the door. This way you can write for all the pair of words given over there. Please try it. Next question, that is 3. Convert the following exclamations into statements. In that, without changing the meaning, we need to do this. For example, what a lovely dress. So I can say that that is a lovely dress. What a fine day it is. So it's a fine day. Now let's go to the next page. In that, it's given about idiomatic language. An idiom is a common word or phrase which means something different from its literal meaning, but can be understood because of their popular use. So look at the first one. There are different ways of using set. Set about something means begin. When Mrs. Singh got home, she set about to preparing dinner for her family. So set about means begin here. Same way, set someone back means delay. Set out means again begin with intention of doing something. Same way, set up means establish oneself in a business. So I want all of you to go through the idioms given over there, and please do practice it with your own sentences also. Try to write sentences of your own. Next is from the Oxford Ariel. You can listen to the audio and answer to the questions. It's very easy. A question about Venice. Like Venice is a city situated where? Is it in Italy or France? So you know that it's in Italy. And same way, you need to mark all the correct answers based on the audio. And there is one assignment for you at the end, that is, this Nicobobinus is set in the famous city of Venice. You know that. Same way, you need to find out any other famous cities which are famous for canals, and you can prepare a bright, colorful promotional poster for the same. And practice this. And if any doubts, you shall contact me. I hope you have enjoyed Nicobobinus. Read the text as well as listen the audio. See you in the next class with an interesting topic.